All right, so let's kick it off. First of all, thank you everyone for coming. It's great to be in Guatemala, especially at the Volcano Summit. And I'd like to just start with a quick fire question just to, get the engine started. So can everyone tell me what's an application of AI that truly excites you? Let's just start there. Just like one sentence or just as short as you can make it.
Hi everyone, I'm Peter Weltman. Generative AI image creation is blowing my mind right now.
For me, I think I've been in the business for 30 years now, and I have never seen such a fascination for ChatGPT ever before. So hands down, ChatGPT.
Hi, I am losing my mind about smart contracts right now. So it's kind of an application that has in behind generative AI, but it's kind of blowing my mind.
Perfect, that's amazing. All right, so let's try to just set the stage and just briefly in your own words, one of the things that I've seen people struggle with, it's kind of like, what's the difference between AI, machine learning, deep learning? Can you all just say, like, in your own words, what's up with this? What is it?
Yeah, AI is kind of the top level blanket of artificial intelligence, so where machines can start to help make decisions and have some understanding. And machine learning goes one level deeper, where it can start to make decisions and almost learn on itself. And then you go to deep learning, which is where that's happening at a grand scale.
So I think, Peter, you covered it pretty nicely. But of course, artificial intelligence is when the machines can act and perform like human and predict and make decisions. We've been doing AI for a while. It's just at different flavors. We worked with data, did data analysis, which feeds the data feeds into machine, for machine to learn from the data we feed in, and the deep learning takes it to the next level, where there's multiple neurons can have the ability to process big data and uses higher compute power to create decisions.
You can see who the communications guy is. That was 3 sentences.
Oh, totally. Fernando, do you have anything you want to add? Or?
Well, I think that we must to define what intelligence is for us, because these are going to help us to dispel some myths about AI. We have 3 cognitive levels in artificial intelligence, or at least in intelligence. We have like functional intelligence, that it's when you use low-level operations, low-level cognitive operations to solve some problems. And we have also understanding that it's when you start thinking about questioning something, a system, how it works, and at the end we have comprehension. I saw a video of these people of Neuralink, of a monkey playing games with a joystick, okay? They are going to train that monkey to use the chip, the Neuralink chip, to like drive the game just by the chip. This is something like that, something like what we are going to expect from AI. AI will not reflect about something, okay? It will use the tools available to solve a challenge. So we need to understand this in order to know how to play with it. We need to understand what the challenges are, and we need to understand that we need to choose a suitable system to solve that challenge. And that's very important, because by knowing exactly what intelligence means, we can debunk some myths around AI and unleash the real power of machine intelligence.
Perfect, and that's a perfect segue for the next part. And I'd love Asha to kick this off, and can you tell us a little bit around this idea or myth I keep hearing that AI is totally unbiased and like it's fair and it's neutral. Can you tell us more about what you've seen in the field and kind of like what's the reality of these aspects?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because we are depending on technology so much. We use AI when Amazon recommends us a book, when we bought a book, or Netflix tells us which movie we should buy. AI is also when we have Alexa or Siri talking back to us and giving us information. And now we have AI creating emails or images for us. So we are depending on AI a lot, more than we ever expected to depend on AI. The problem with AI is AI gives you its input and output. And if you give the input, whatever data you feed, the model is going to take that data and amplify and give you the input. So the example would be that if you have the data set, which is biased, the result will be also biased. So we can't blame the model because model is only giving the feedback. So in a simple example, if you have a labeled data, so we've been collecting data for a long time now, and we are labeling the data. So the structured data, or when we are labeling the data for the model, we kind of put our biases in the model. A great example, Amazon created this bot for recruiting. And they said, we are looking for engineers. And the bot went into the history, the data that was provided, for all the resumes of the engineers they had hired. And so the model automatically started rejecting the female resumes because it said, all the successful engineers are male. So the biases get coded into the program because of the data we have available. So we need to make sure that we are deploying the processes that identify our biases and try to correct it.
Perfect. Yeah, go
Can I
for it.
add, because the other thing are large language models, which are the backbone to generative AI. So for example, I love this about Latin America, but if I say, hey, where's the restaurant? They'll say, it's over there, and that's maybe probably true, and it's maybe probably false. And we have to think of large language models as probabilistic, which means that they may probably give you something true as much as they may probably give you something false, which we call hallucinations. So what you have to do when working, to use these very successfully, especially in the enterprise setting, you need to fine-tune these probabilistic large language models with the data coming from your business, from your law firm, from your marketing agency, so that it will probably be truer instead of probably be more false. And I think that's where a lot of people go awry with large language models and generative AI, asking it to create something that you didn't really give it and seed it with that much information. So these work way better when trained on the things that you give it, while then also being able to use the probabilistic large language component to add new information into it, but you're creating tighter guardrails to keep it from saying something false.
Perfect. Yeah.
And in fact, this morning I was reading a paper that says that large language models are just like stochastic parrots. Why? Because they cannot handle a reference to meaning. They just use data as anchors to apply a huge model, but they cannot reflect about the meaning of something. So that is just probabilistic. You cannot delegate to that system something that you are not quite sure that you understand how the process works, and that the data could be handled by that system. So we need to be very conscious that we need to build those guardrails, and we need to keep responsibility of the outputs of the process to control those biases.
Perfect, thank you. And on that note, Peter, as our resident storyteller, I laughed so much when a friend of mine mentioned to me that climate change really has to hire AI's PR manager because we talk a lot about it. Can you tell us more about the narratives that you hear around AI and what's the best thing that you can do as a business to engage in it in a way that is meaningful rather than trying to go after hype, and what are the guardrails you've seen companies address?
Are you asking how to institute AI into your business?
Well, you can, so both that and also how to institute it in your business, but also how to communicate it to your customers.
Ah, okay. So you can see both sides of the coin, where sometimes you want technology to be so far below that you don't really know you're interacting with it. We all send emails with very easy interfaces, but it wasn't always that way. It required some coding for those old enough in the room to remember. Or prompting, in MS-DOS to prompt your CDs and floppy disks. However, there's a human component and connection that does make people somewhat fearful of connecting with AI. So I work with a client who does customer support using a completely automated engine. And at the end of it is generative AI. So in order to get that process down, you can't just put generative AI to do the whole thing because of what we just talked about. You don't want your generative AI making something up and saying something kind of insane or weird or biased to your customers, because that's like business suicide. But you do want to use it. It is a really great use case because let's say you're an agent and you're on your 100th call of the day, there's going to be empathy fatigue. And you may be short with your customer, or you may give them bad advice. Whereas if a fully automated system pulled in all the right information, routed it to the right sector of your company, let's say it's a return for a shirt, and then generative AI, because of these very well-trained, guardrailed large language models, wrote a very empathetic response to your customer, and then the agent, instead of the one who might be exhausted at this point, just has to look and make sure that it says the right thing to the right customer and is contextualized. Well then, that is a great use case for generative AI. Now, the other side are bots. Of course, we go to websites all the time and a bot pops up. Most customers that I'm talking to, specifically in this space, although I think it's analogous across, is it will tell you are interacting with a chatbot. And oftentimes the data shows if that chatbot can solve your issue, usually it's a lower bar issue, fast, well then the customer is more satisfied based on customer satisfaction scores, and they are willing to receive a more equitable compensation for whatever their problem is because it was fast. But if at any moment, if you've said this is a bot, and you say if this does not work for you or this is taking too long, just type in help and we'll route you to an agent, well that makes the customer also very happy that they can opt out. So it's kind of both ways, where sometimes you want to keep it under, and sometimes it's very helpful in this new day and age to let people know what they're interacting with and just let them opt out fast if their problem is not getting solved.
Perfect. Any of you all want to add anything to that?
I think it's really important how you communicate top down. I think right now there's a lot of demand for AI. Everybody is looking for AI applications. I remember I grew up as a programmer in my early days, and every time technologists would go to business in corporate America, business would always complain about technology. They were never happy. They wanted to do everything themselves. They wanted to keep technology outside. And now it's complete opposite. Business is knocking on the door of technologists and saying, how can I use generative AI? I want to use AI because it's going to make my life easier. So now I think the ChatGPT has shown the value from every student in the house, every child in the house, to teachers, to artists, content creator, to business users, marketing or sales. Doesn't matter which profession you are in. You can actually use AI pretty quickly and effectively. And I think the story has changed. And now how technologists engage with the business users and how business engages with technical people is completely different than how it was a year back. So I think it's how you tell the story now and make sure you take advantage of the technology and not let the technology hinder or be afraid of AI. I think there's a lot of pros and cons, but how you think about AI, you need to become friends with it if you're not friends with it right now with AI, you're going to lag behind.
And I would say you should probably add too, but if you think of it's fun to play with it, and I would encourage everybody, but you need to also think of what your outcomes are. Like if you just add AI to add AI, you're probably going to start adding more problems than the solutions. We're talking enterprise, than what you're looking to do. So I think you would probably have great, because if you're looking at outcomes, if you can cobble systems together where AI is a part of it, generally your outcome can be better.
Yeah, and it should be, or it could be, just part of the solution, because we want to create a collaboration between humans and machines. And we can split the responsibility for the customer experience between human and machines. In Denmark, I believe that is in Denmark, that they use artificial intelligence to detect, to capture the patterns of a cardiac arrest in the 911 calls. Meanwhile, the human is trying to get emotional support to that person, because humans are not as good as artificial intelligence to understand those patterns, to detect those patterns. So we can use artificial intelligence and work together to get better experience and not to delegate anything or everything. Okay, so that's something that we keep in mind in order to have a good customer experience.
Awesome. And one of the things that I've been seeing a lot is that, and we saw it with the first speaker that came here, is transformation is kind of like a word that's coming around a lot. So when we went from the steam engine to the electric engine, it took about 30 years for layouts of factories to change. And so how do you all see work transforming in terms of, I know people usually frame it as in a good South Park moment, AI is going to take our jobs. But so how do you see work being transformed for people through the use of AI now and in I would say probably more than 6 months? I wouldn't even, I wouldn't be confident in saying anything beyond 6 months. But take it away, you're pretty much in the trenches with all the companies as a consultant.
Yeah, and that's the tough question. But I try to draw a wider picture in this. Because you said about the second industrial revolution, electricity. Before that second industrial revolution, we didn't have electricians. So any industrial revolution creates jobs. And we now, I have my older niece. She asked me 2 years ago that she wants to study linguistics, okay? But philology, more than linguistics. And I told her, and I think to myself, if she had told me that 10 years ago, I could have said that she's crazy. But now we have prompting engineers that we pay a lot of money because they know how to use language to create value. Yes. So we need to keep that in mind. We have a wider picture. We also need to understand that there are jobs that will be collaborative with AI, okay? They will collaborate with AI to give value. So, for example, cashiers, okay? We have now ATMs, and we have ATMs for a long time. But you keep cashiers in your banks. Why? Because maybe we are going to see that we will have two different strategies. One focused on efficiency, okay, automated efficiency, and the second focused on AI leverage growth. Okay, so that growth will be focus on personalization that AI cannot do that well right now, okay? And we also need to understand that we can use AI for our own benefit, okay? I was in a very, I don't know, a lot of years ago, I was a lawyer, okay? Now I am in technology. But now I can say to those lawyers that they don't need to start coding. We have now the tools for anybody to capture its knowledge and sell it as a service. So that's a way that, in fact, I am working on creating a platform for liberal profession and small companies to capture that knowledge and sell it through marketplaces, big vendor marketplaces. So we have to understand that it's not just that we are going to lose some jobs, maybe, but at the end we can even disrupt what we understand for job and for salary, and our relationship between human needs and social collaboration. So it's a new word.
Yeah, no, I think it's such a great question, because AI is truly going to transform the way we engage with AI, but also how we work, we play, and how we consume technology. It is true that AI is creating a lot of efficiencies in the workplace. We are going to have digital humans. We're going to have our peers who would be AI chatbots. And we will be hiring more digital human as workers. So there will be a lot more engagement of digital human in our lives. The way they say that we're not going to remove the jobs because of AI, we're going to remove jobs because we are not the leaders of AI. So I think how it's going to transform is that the people who know how to use AI will take the jobs of the people who don't know how to use AI. I think that's the difference that's going to happen. So it'll make us more creative. It'll give us a lot more room for us to think about how we solve our day-to-day work problem. It'll give us a lot more chance to solve more bigger problems in the world. The technology always is there to provide efficiency to humankind, make our lives better. It's how we use this technology to make sure that as humans, as professionals, we are solving bigger, better problems now.
Yeah, think about time horizons on solving problems. So I run a consultancy, right? I would never charge by the hour because I charge by resolution, by output. And now we can have more output than ever. I'm even seeing SaaS companies, or that idea of SaaS, go away because companies would rather charge by resolution because they can move so much faster. So yes to all of those things, and I think, you know, for those in the crowd who are consultants or whatever, you're now able to move so much faster. So all the, you know, paralegals who are digging through that information, well, you can fine-tune your large language models for that. So I think a lot of these pay structures, pay per hour, all that SaaS models, those are fundamentally going to change because now you can move so much faster. And if you're a company not using that, a consultant not using that, a lawyer or whatever, then you're going to lose out on the speed at which those problems can be solved, that you can potentially charge the same amount as that hour that you would have spent before.
But also a company, like from the economic perspective, okay, a company will prefer create more value and more profit that just reduce their cost, that lower their cost. So if you as a CEO are thinking about replace humans with AI, think it twice, because you can use those humans because the market is huge. The market is not local, the market is global. So use that knowledge that you have, train large language models, and create services and sell them. So think it twice, just think it twice, because
it's always good to have an economist on the panel.
Oh, of course. So we're drawing towards the end. So this last question that I want us to address has to do a lot with challenging everyone here in the audience at Volcano Summit. So what is something that you'll want to challenge them to be able to achieve by the end of the conference with AI. As you said, it's a playground, it can be a toy, it can be a huge tool to be more productive. So I want each of y'all, and I'll add one at the end, what is a challenge that you have for them to try with AI by the end of the conference, with the commitment that they have a question, they can come to you about how to get it done?
Okay, I think that they should try like blended models, okay? To use not just NLP, but use visual recognition, use neurosymbolic models, and try to track and understand what it's all about. And just that, just use it. You will be amazed, but you need to understand this is not magic. This is science, and you need to understand the basics and then use it well.
You know, for me, I think it's really important that you upskill and reskill. No matter what stage of your career you are, upskilling and reskilling is super critical, and now we live in the age of AI. And if you're not investing time in learning about the tools that are available, easy to use, and educating your team. So it's not just doing it alone, but making sure that you commit to educating your team on the tools that are available. Use them in basic, Microsoft launched Office 365 with Copilot. So just simple, using AI tools with simple technologies, but really getting your hands dirty, creating small wins, even if it's a chatbot, or if it's using in your content creation or creating images. But start using AI in your day-to-day life and make sure your team is educated and getting upskilled, so that you're not cutting the staff because they don't know how to use it. Invest in educating your team and your members.
And I would say use generative AI for something that you are not good at. So if you are a writer and you fancy yourself a writer, try to make an image with it. If you're a graphic designer, try to write something prompting ChatGPT or GPT-4. If you're not great at analyzing a whole talk or the meeting notes, try using the tool for that. So step a little bit outside what you're good at. And remember that these things can hallucinate, so don't use them as gospel. Double check your work, but step outside your comfort zone of what you know you're good at and try using it for something else, and you'll start to see just the world of possibility that opens with these tools.
Perfect. And on that note, I think that the challenge I have for all of you is one of the first tools I remember using that were like AI powered was speech to text applications. There's a ton now. It's pretty much ubiquitous. But one of the things that I struggled with in conferences is I was so excited about everything that I learned, and then I struggled to tell people what are we going to do about this. So I want to invite all of you to either using that or using your own notes, but really take advantage of finding ways of how to communicate whatever you're learning here to turn into something actionable with your teams. Because I think that, once again, AI is one of the best tools we have right now to really help us synthesize. For example, I struggle, in case you haven't realized, with being short on words. Peter has a lot to teach me about that. But I think that we need to remember that the way we think about these tools is the more we use it, the more creative we are about them. Familiarity, creativity has a lot to do with how familiar we are with things. So on that note, I love Peter's point on doing something. If it's something that's really high risk, you're probably going to be like, this needs to be perfect, but have fun with it. If anything, at least find an app, be it ChatGPT, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, Llama. It can read books for you. I don't know if you've seen that. Now you can snap a picture of the cover of a book on ChatGPT and tell it to give you a summary of a book. So really think about how you can integrate.
I recently wrote a book called The AI Factor, and it kind of gives you a quick overview. So if you haven't really invested in AI much, you get an idea from the business side and technology side. So it's a good overview.
Perfect. All right. So that's us. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
And hope you have a great conference.